let's, anything else you want to add on the Steps Foundation? Oh yeah, there was one other thing, because not only the 26 challenge, but a lot of times people like Team in Training and different ones, they'll run for a charity. People, if they wanted to run a marathon for a charity, can also run for the Steps Foundation as well.
That's right. Yeah, running for a charity has been incredible for Ryan and I to know that, all the hours we spend slaving away out there on the road is actually counting for something more than awards and records. The things, we feel God calling us to pursue excellence, but there's also an emptiness, Ryan and I found, even when you get to the top. And so we found it's been really incredible to be able to run for something even greater than that, and to see firsthand the water projects we saw in Zambia were funded by runners, to see that you can actually make a difference through your running. And so, it's a great opportunity if you guys, even you can start at a 5K, and it's a great thing where you're both getting in shape yourself and moving towards physical fitness, but also benefiting other people, and it's a great thing. So
let me
on that note real quick, when I was running the New York City Marathon last year, that was the first race I ran for the Steps Foundation, and I'd pledged my prize money, and I was going to drop out of the race 15 miles into the race. I was falling back into 10th, and things weren't going well, and I was, in my mind, I was like, all right, well, this is probably the first time I ever dropped out of a race. But I knew I was running for the foundation, so I was like, all right, I can't drop out because I'm not just running for me, and ended up finishing 4th, and that's not too shabby. Picked up a little bit of stuff for the projects that we're doing, so it really
stuff
does impact.
Meaning money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was cryptic. Yeah.
Can't say money in a church.
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah. Don't sweat it. We've already taken the offering. You're good. That's sweet. Hey, one of the things that one of you said this morning on our run, the ox deal, was when you were in, many of your friends and competitors are from Africa. And you said when you went there to see, and I thought this was just such a cool statement, to see what they do with their winnings. Because in America, our pro athletes, it's all about me. How much more? I got to hold out for another 40 million because my other 35 million isn't going to cut it. And they take their money and they run for a cause.
Yeah, I mean, last year when I finished the Boston Marathon, we go in and we're doing a press conference, and I'm sitting right next to this guy who just won, and he's beaming, but he's talking about, I'm going to go back to my village and buy all these goats and do all this stuff. And, I just want to give the guy a hug. I'm like, man, I'm so glad that you won and that you're doing all this amazing stuff. So we want to do the same.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Sarah, thank you so much. We have a few of the Steps Foundation brochures, but they can go online. Again, we put that website in the link so that you would have that. You've got no excuse. We're going to get 1,000 this weekend, right?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Hey, let's thank Sarah. All right. Okay. That's fantastic. So, Ryan, to your running career, for years, American distance runners have kind of taken a back seat, almost kind of not an embarrassment, but they just have been non-existent. Some things come along in one article talked about in the class of 01, you as well as Brian Sell and Dathan, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, and different ones. But all of a sudden there's like this new emerging group of American runners. And there have been those who've called Ryan America's Hope, the future of marathoning. How do you deal with that pressure, and how do you deal with the celebrity fame and pride and humility? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it has its challenges. I mean, I guess I get a taste of maybe what it's like to be a celebrity or have some amount of fame, for the most part, I can walk around and go for runs and, not get recognized too often, but it's certainly, it has its challenges. And I would just say that I think one of the things that helps me is just focusing on what I'm doing, there's been times in my career, for example, one of the things that people love to criticize me about for my running style is leading races. And it's funny, I was running the Boston Marathon last year. I'm 2 miles into the race, and there's this guy who's cheering for me on the side of the road. And you might not think that we hear stuff when we're out there running, but we do. This guy was cheering for me. He's like, "Good job, Ryan, but don't lead the entire race." And so everyone loves to criticize me for that. And during last year's New York City Marathon, I kind of let that get into my head, like all the different talk. And so I decided not to lead the race. And it's totally wasn't my style of running. I never found my rhythm, and it didn't work at all. And so I've learned to just be me out there. That's like the most important thing for me. And then also just to be focused on what I'm doing and not about, I don't read any of my own publicity. I just don't pay attention to what other people are saying to a large extent. And I'm just focused on what I'm doing, and that's it. I just have the blinders on.
Yeah. There's also not just the pressure of what everyone expecting of Ryan Hall, but there's also, and again, people who are critical of, Ryan Hall's got all this potential, has yet to win a major marathon. You've won, the Olympic trials and did incredible there. Haven't won a major one. And then disappointments when you don't have a day that clicks, when it's not as good. Or, for instance, like this fall, when you plan and you train and you work so hard for the Chicago, and then you have to withdraw from that, that's got to be disappointing as well, or maybe you don't perform as well as you wanted to. How do you deal with the disappointments of that?
Yeah, disappointment is really tough, and I think for myself, I just have to have hope in things other than running, So like I can't just be just a runner and have my running define me. I have to have other things, like who is Ryan Hall? And you show the video and it's like, yeah, that's great, but that's what I do. That's not really who I am. And that was a defining...
Wait. Say that again, because that is so important.
Yeah, like having who I am not be defined by what I do. And I think especially for men in particular, and for everyone, we like to define ourselves by what we do. I mean, that's the first thing you ask someone. Hey, my name is Ryan, and I do this, and that's me. And it's like, no, that's not really you. And it was really hard for me to figure that out. I had to leave Stanford for a quarter of my sophomore year. I was going through like depression, and running wasn't going well, and school wasn't going well. And so I had to go home just to like get things figured out and spend time with the Lord and go back to the vision they'd given me and everything. And during that time, I realized, all right, I have to be a Christian who happens to run and not the other way around. And that was a huge turning point for me. And now, it's like, even with my preparation for Chicago and then not being able to run, it's like, I know that I'm okay with that. And so I can risk it all, like I'm not afraid to go out there and lead the race and take big risks in my career because I know that I'm okay if I fail. Uh-huh. And if you're okay with failure, then sky's the limit. So you can just go after it and it's fun.
Yeah. There would be some that are saying you're taking a huge risk right now because you've walked away from the Mammoth running group. You're kind of self-coaching.
Yeah, I don't like to call it self-coaching. We were talking about this morning on the run. But yeah, I left my coach, and, I kind of feel like maybe how Jesus felt. He had the first 30 years of preparation, and then he went into ministry for 3 years. And I've had 14 years of running experience, and I've learned a lot from my coach, all my previous coaches and different athletes. And now I'm really feeling like I need to take the next step with my faith in running. My faith in running have always been like this, but take even a bigger leap into allowing faith to influence my training on a daily basis. So, I like to think of it as faith-based training. And so what does that mean? It's like I apply biblical principles to my training. For example, the Sabbath. And I don't think we have to be totally legalistic with the Sabbath, but I think there is a principle that God obviously himself worked by, and I think would be good for us to work by. And so whereas I used to run 7 days a week, now I just run 6 days a week. And like I said, I'm not like totally legalistic about it, but I am starting to rest more now. And then, there's other principles as well. But for me, it's getting down on my knees every single day, getting in lots of input from other people, because it says in the Bible that there's victory with much counsel. And so I try to get lots of different opinions and voices that I trust and that are in my circle. And then ultimately, though, get on my knees every morning, pray, ask God what he wants me to do, pay attention to my own body because he gave me my body, and they're all connected. And then be flexible enough to do what he's telling me to do every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me ask you a question along that line with biblical principles. I'm gonna read what you said in Runner's World, November 2009. You said this: I used to get upset when I didn't win, but I have a more mature attitude now. What's the point in everyone running if only one person can win? For me, I've decided that I want to run every race with a big heart and that I want to leave a legacy. And that's great. I wonder, and again, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate, is that a cop-out when the Word of God says, do you not know that in the race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize, so run in such a way as to get the prize? How do you meld those two together?
Yeah, well, I think the thing about that verse, it doesn't say what the prize is, you know?
I'm telling you what it is. It's the gold medal, baby.
Of course, gold medal, fame, money, all that stuff. That's what you're after. No, I mean, that is one of the things that bothers me, not only about the sport that I do, but also about our culture a little bit. It's like, for example, if I were to say to you guys, like, if you want it bad enough, if you want to win the next Olympic marathon, if you want it bad enough, you're willing to do the work, you're focused, and you really believe in your heart that you're going to do it, that you can do it. Because that's simply not true. There's one person who's going to win the next marathon, and it can't be more than that, you know?
Right.
And so I've totally changed the way I do goals. I used to do goals like times in cement that I'd write down and, you know, places and things like that. Now my goals are more heart conditions because I know that God's way more concerned with my heart than he is how fast I finish the marathon. Yeah. And so, like, for this last year when I ran the Boston Marathon, it was to run with joy. And I totally didn't win the race, but I won the race and that I accomplished that goal. Like, I had a great time in the race. It was hard, but that joy actually helped me push myself harder than I otherwise could have. Sweet. And that was a victory for me.
That's awesome.